Hi, Nicole. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm wonderful. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No worries. You're very welcome. I'm doing good today. Thank you. I know, obviously, you got in touch yesterday and we're sitting here now and we're going to have fun discussing all things Jill and Resident Evil. So, yeah.
Can't wait. Let's do it.
Cool. So, the first question is you stepped into the shoes of an iconic character. What was it like becoming Jill Valentine?
I mean, honestly, you took the words right out of my mouth. I always say, like, there's nothing quite like taking on such an iconic character because she's been played by many other actresses before, as well as been represented and seen and meant something to so many different people in many generations. Like this is an older character. We've had her for a while, and she's really been kind of like a pivotal character in gaming and women in game. You know, there's so much that kind of like lies on Jill's shoulders and our other blue tank top Brit, if you will, when it comes to like women in games. Like people think about, Laura Croft and Jill Valentine and Claire Redfield, and like they are some of those just icons. So for me, you know, I was really lucky. I was super embraced. On set, I was with people that were incredibly passionate. You know, the whole team loves what they're working on. They're fans themselves. They're passionate about these characters. They're passionate about the games that they make. So that kind of like enthusiasm is infectious and very helpful for me. I was able to just trust, like, you know what I'm bringing is it. And if it's not working or isn't going to align with the vision of this iteration of Jill that they're representing, which is different than we've seen her, then they'll tell me, you know, I'll be known. So I got to kind of like lean into that trust. And then as far as once it all came out and the character's kind of, you know, no longer yours, it's out there in the whole world for other people to have opinions and interact and enjoy. And I have felt so warmly embraced, honestly, by fans of all generations. It's super meaningful when people that are like, oh yeah, I played it in the 90s or the early 2000s and like, I love your Jill. It's like, wow, that means so much. Like, thank you. Cause yeah, she means a lot to different people. So I can only kind of come in and be like, all right, here's, you know, within the context of what I was given, a version of how I see her in kind of a grounded, gritty PTSD, very sweary, you know, kind of like land that she's in, for when I kind of picked her up. So yeah, that's me being very verbose and long-winded, but I think you get the idea.
Absolutely. I mean, I've tried to speedrun RE3 Remake lots of times, and every time I love playing it all the way through, because watching Jill sort of evolve from how she was in the original RE3 to where she currently is with like Nemesis, just constantly, you know, just being stalker. It doesn't catch a break. But then when I watched Death Island, I love seeing how Jill's sort of more personal, closer relationships with like Chris and like with Rebecca and Claire, because you don't really get to see her in that kind of
You don't. And then, I mean, just meeting Leon, just like getting to be in a scene with Leon was such a exciting thing for so many people.
I was going to say, what was it like working with Matthew Mercer on? Because I think he did the voice, didn't he?
He did Leon for Death Island, and I mean, come on, Matt is as amazing as he seems. Matt Mercer is exactly who he appears to be to everyone else who is a huge fan and has watched hours and hours of him being an incredible dungeon master and actor and voice actor. Like, he's a delight. He's incredibly kind, and I think he really lives his values and his morals on the cuff of his sleeve. You know exactly who he is. He's full of heart. He's full of love. He's full of creativity and enthusiasm. So for me, you know, getting to do like the press tour and hanging out with Matt, who at this point is a good friend, is always a joy. It's just so much. It's so much fun. You love to work with people that you love. That's how I always say it. Like, it makes all the difference when you work with other people that you're like, oh, I'm inspired by you, actually. I think you're amazing. I love your work. Like, that's how I want to feel anytime I go to work.
But that's great to hear. You're very, very lucky, because I know most people just don't like don't like going to work, but you're very, very fortunate to do something that you love and you enjoy and you're passionate about, which is amazing. So
incredibly. And it's not, it's not without its trials. You'll hear lots about what it means to kind of like choose this path. And a lot of people will ask me like, how do you become a voice actor, or how do you be an actor? And it's like, hey, everyone's path is so different. There's no one right way. So you do trade stability and assurance for admittedly a high payoff when you get the yes. When you get the yes and you get to go to work, it's nothing like it.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Cool. So moving on to the second question. So did you feel any pressure taking on a role so beloved by Resident Evil fans?
I think at the time, I was still Jeff Shine's answer about this, because Jeff, who plays Carlos and Chris, is so good at being like, nah, I'm looking at what's on the page, and I'm looking at what's in front of me. And definitely when we're shooting, I don't feel like I let too much of the outside in, but I was protected as well, because we're just in this little microcosm of like, hey, we're doing a project together. We're bringing this thing to life. We're all excited to do it. And it wasn't outward facing. So from that perspective, I felt like it wouldn't have benefited me to think about what the fans will and won't like while I'm actively doing the job, because that's not what Jill's concerned with. Like, my job is to be very present in my given circumstances with, the experience and understanding and motivations that I have, and to pull it all out and to keep getting up and to survive it. Like, that's the energy with which I'm approaching the work. And this goes back to my original comment of like, I get to have a lot of trust then, because then the people that are like, ooh, well, fans will want this, or fans would like this, or they wouldn't like this, that's the people around me that get to come in and be the team, as far as like, hey, can we have her XYZ? And as that relationship develops, it becomes easier for me to go like, ooh, could I add this? I feel like she might say da 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 da. And 7 people have to approve that, and then you get to do it, and it makes it into the game, and people are like, oh, I love that line, and you're like, oh, I contributed to that. That's so cool. But people ask a lot about improv, and I always say like a lot of Jill was on the page. A lot of her like most iconic one-liners, obviously her most iconic stars line, like all of that was already there.
Oh, okay, fantastic stuff. So I've got here, so how did you approach capturing Jill's strength, trauma, and humanity in RE3 Remake? Because obviously you deal with like a lot of emotion. So obviously when you're very first starting out, you've got like your PTSD, and you're sort of, God, I'm right in the thick of it. You've got Brad and poor old Brad,
Totally. I think it wasn't too hard for me, because the way in which I auditioned for Jill, like the way they brought her to me, they picked very specific scenes that I think were representative of her journey. And one of those scenes that was in my initial audition had 0 lines. And it's the scene in the very beginning. I know, you're like, oh, but we were doing full performance capture auditions as well. So it was like physicality, emotional journey, all of that. One of the first scenes that they had me audition with was her dream suicide, where she turns into a zombie and then shoots herself. So it's like really, really intense, like a really next level, not okay, she is not okay scene and representation. And I mean, the game starts out with a bang with that kind of to give you a picture of like, here's where she's at. We're starting here. Before anything else that she's going to go through, we're already here. She's not well. She's bothered. She's struggling. And so I think because I came in being like, hi, here's one of the first scenes that we think represents and tells us if you're going to play this character, is this scene. It then gives you a lot of context for how you approach the other scenes, because you have that reality of like, okay, great, this is where she's at. She has really intense nightmares. She's already tired. She's already, scared, and then she's scripted to continue to get back up. So then every choice that you make after that, if you know at the end of the scene she's going to get back up and keep going, it gives you a lot of context clues about who this person is and how she's going to show up, throughout the story. So that's kind of what I rely on, and that's the joy of acting. Like, that's the work of the actor, is like breaking it down and figuring out, okay, well, hi, like if I have to end up here, what is the journey there, and how does that look? So yeah, I'll nerd out about like craft all day long.
That's okay, because I was going to say, because we interviewed Nick recently on the channel, and he was explaining about like the mocap when he did like RE4 Remake.
Yeah.
What was it like doing the mocap? Did you have somebody like dress up as Nemesis, or how did that work?
Neil Newbon, who most people now know as everyone's favorite sexy vampire in Baldur's Gate 3, is one of my, dearest people in my world, and we've done 4 or 5 projects together now, so we've worked together a lot, and I met him on RE3 in the parking lot of the callback. And he did all of the, it's a whole village, but he did a lot of the performance capture, definitely when I was there for Nemesis. So he did both Nikolai and Nemesis. So whenever there's like scenes where we needed to really get capture PCAP with both of us, him walking, running, him chasing, talking, facing out to each other, we were doing PCAP together. So I had a Neil dressed up in a silly wetsuit with a bunch of balls all over his body. And he's an amazing Nemesis. He's just such a physical genius. So if you ever watch him move, like he's a transformer when it comes to creature performance, and performance in general. So he really gave Nemi his all, which made it therefore both easy for me. But people kind of ask, like, when you work on horror, they're like, oh, is it scary? And it's like, no. Most of the time, the scariest part of horror is everything that everyone else does. The music, the lighting, the angle, the whatever else. Often on film and TV and video games, like, horror can be very funny because you're really doing intense reactions, and just imagine, like, and then everything else is silent. It's a little bit like when you mute a horror film and suddenly it's not as scary as if it was unmuted. It's got a bit of that. So more so, I think it was a joyful space. It was really joyful doing the face-off scenes with Nemesis or Nikolai, my villain and everything.
So now when I go back and I play RE3 Remake, I will never think of Neil in the same way ever again.
Nope.
Oh, bless him. Oh, that's really cool. So the next question I've got here is, did you draw on any personal experiences or influences to shape your version of Jill?
It's a really good question. I'm thinking about if there's something specific I could point to, other than obviously, like, my whole life has shaped my capacities and understandings of how I function. When the art form is you, there's no getting away from, like, yeah, I'm sure my reality absolutely shaped my ability to communicate, but I don't think I had something specific where I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about that time that XYZ. I'm much more of a really looking at what's in front of me and my circumstances and being like, oh, yeah, I tend to be, and actors work all sorts of different ways, but for me, I think I tend to be a little more in the actual context of what's happening versus thinking about something else that I've experienced and then trying to bring that in. Not that, your body will do that. You'll, I'm sure, have emotions. I was shooting something the other day where it was a proposal scene. Sorry, this is so off topic, but it was a proposal scene. And I got down and my job is to be this character and, got emotional and all of that. But definitely as they got down and proposed, I was like, oh, I actually know what this feels like. Like, that's wild. You're going to have those moments. We're really human. Things spark and your body goes, oh, wow, ow, it's so, ow, but wow, beautiful, makes me emotional. And so, yeah, you always draw on aspects of your life. But for Jill, I think her core qualities that I would love to believe I have some of, but definitely not at the level that she has, is she's just very strong. She's incredibly resilient. She just keeps getting back up. She cares for others greatly. And I think her resilience is probably what I admire the most. And, I would love to say I'm resilient like Jill, but I haven't had to go through the kinds of experiences that she has had. She's in such a, heightened reality of existence. So I can't say I have the experiences to draw on quite for how she sees the world.
I think the one thing that did it for me at the end, because obviously when at the end of RE3 Remake, the part where her and Carlos get on the helicopter, obviously, Neil is on the floor, bless him. And the pair of them just look so relieved at the end, like, oh my God, we've left Raccoon City. Oh, what's next? Kind of thing. And you can tell both of the relief in their faces. Then when I watched the scene afterwards, where it's the broken, called like serum bottle, I guess, is on the table. And she's like, it's okay, I don't mind detective work, kind of thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
But yeah, I don't mind a little detective work. She says that to Nikolai right before she gets on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that was fun. It's a fun line, because anytime you get, it's a good one-liner, right? It's a good, like, I'm gonna say this thing to you, and then I really don't care what you have to respond. I'm actually not here to hear your answer. I'm just here to put a pin in it. Because he's sitting there trying to tempt her to get, her to take him. And it's one of the few times that, we see her not attempt to save someone. She's like, I don't need the answers, actually. That's not worth it to me in this moment. I'll figure it out. I trust myself. And I think that's kind of cool, and definitely reads very, badass and epic.
She definitely is. Jill is actually one of my favorite. I mean, all the characters are just wonderful, but Jill and Leon are definitely my standout.
I mean, I'm a little biased, but same.
Yeah, because it's really funny. I was talking to somebody the other day. So I remember buying my first PS1, and the first game that came with, it's a bit like a bundle pack, came with it was the original RE3. And I'd never played like a horror game in my life, and I thought, what's going on here? So I remember playing it. I thought, it got this really cool woman. She just kicks butt, don't care, just taking on all these zombies in a place that's just ridden full of T-virus and everything else. And I thought, I like this girl. She's got it going for her.
Yeah, I feel that. I agree. She's easy. I think she's easy to like. And I feel like the people that, I don't know, like her the most share certain qualities in their admiration, share certain, like, some people are in it because vibes are just really good. They're just like, yeah, she's cool. She kills it. Some people are like, oh, she's just got such a sense. I think that resilience and that strength is very comforting as well. You're like, she's going to be fine. She's going to just keep going. And we'll feel bad for her when she struggles, but like, we believe in her a lot.
Awesome stuff. So the next question is, the RE fan base is famously passionate. What's the one fan interaction that's really stuck with you?
I've had so many! Oh no! Oh no! Gosh, I don't even know what to pull on. One, I've been gifted some amazing things. Like, people have gifted me things that they've made, things that they're super, artistically inspired by. So like, I've received so many things and stories from people. Like, if they don't gift me an object, like, I've been gifted so much, like, enriching stories and experiences that people have with these characters, or how it got them through tough times, or all sorts of that. So like, those will often make me cry. Like, they're so beautiful, and I'm such a sap. Like, if someone starts to tear up, I'm like, oh, I'm coming with you. So those are always really meaningful, and I've had quite a few of those at this point. I will say I've also met some like full-scale Nemesis cosplays.
Oh, wow.
As well. I feel like I've only seen one, there's one specifically, I've seen a couple, but there's one specifically that comes to mind where it just was like, it was all out. I think it was probably the best cosplay I've ever seen. Just full scale Nemesis, the stilts, everything. They were super tall and super massive. And I was like, that's epic. So the creativity is endlessly inspiring. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going with. And then not Jill related, I got a whole new slew of amazing people from all sorts of different walks of life that were really attracted to the Vampire Sisters, Daniela Dimitrescu and Lady D, and I just got so many beautiful experiences from a lot of young gamers too, like a lot of kind of teens, and non-binary and women and like all sorts. Like, you would think, oh, the hot Vampire Sisters, it's all guys kind of like lusting after them. And I'm sure there's their fair share of that. That's the nature of these characters for sure. But I also got so many like really passionate women and NB people that were just so delightful to interact with, and then I feel like I got more exposure to them, and then they came and became Jill fans as well. So I loved that too. Just like the qualities of different kinds of fans is is really impactful and sweet. And I've already mentioned like OG fans, you know, some I've met men in their 40s and 50s where it's just like they're showing their kids, their pet, you know, they play this with their son and they're excited, and I'm just like, this is so special. Like, thank you for including me. Thank you for finding this cool, because I'm honored to play a small part in like making your day a little brighter when we get to meet or interact or nerd out about this thing that we're both passionate about.
Absolutely. I mean, if anyone ever asks me, because obviously I've been brought up with horror, and if anyone ever says, what is your favorite franchise ever? The first words out of my mouth, Resident Evil, because it's just so iconic. I mean, I know you've got like your other like Silent Hills, and you've got like your other types of games as well, but RE to me, I've got two shelves full of RE stuff. And
yes.
I've been trying to build my collection. The first game I ever bought was OG RE3. Funny enough, it's on the PS1.
Love it.
And my son, he does like watching video games, but obviously he's 5, so he can't watch horror at the moment, so he's much older.
Early, yep.
But he loves, I've got like this, what they call like a tub stuck of Leon. And
yeah! I love the Jill duck. When people bring me that or want me to sign, I always love to put a little "bitch can't even swim" on it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, isn't that so cute? It's adorable. I love that collab.
No, it is pretty awesome. So I've got the last question in the set of questions here, which is, if you had the chance to return as Jill, would you say yes? And where would you love to take her story next?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I have heard so many creative concepts about like how people want to see Jill. Obviously I love the character. If the stars aligned, I would love to spend more time in her shoes, because she's pretty amazing. As far as her story next, I think it was really cool to see her in Death Island, getting to like meet up with the people. And, you know, I leave where she goes next to the writers and the creatives, because they're very passionate and skilled and interested. So, I mean, I think it'd be really cool to see, I think some of my favorite dynamics, like if I'm just talking like personally what's fun to do, I really love when we get to see more of her relationships to other people. So like her relationships are some of my favorite. Obviously she interacts with monsters and all sorts of horrors, but like the relationship between her and Chris, we saw some of it in Death Island. It'd be really cool to see more in this next iteration of where they're at now after having been through so much. I loved the dynamics like hinted at and created between her and Leon in Death Island. Like, it's just, they feel like they'd be a really good team, and they would probably get along. And also, just Leon's got such a he's a badass, but he's got like a wholesome humor to him, right? There's such a creative little nature of I don't even know what the quality is, just like impish joy underneath all of the trauma and PTSD. There's like, he's got this fun bubbly thing, and I think getting to see Jill interact with that more, because I see her also as someone who like both enjoys the silly, enjoys the humor, definitely, but like has been through so much, so it's a little buried. So it's like watching her fight to be like, okay, actually it's kind of funny, but I'm gonna roll my eyes at it. Like, I just think that quality is so interesting to me. So that's just like character dynamics that I would love to just play in, because I think it'd be really fun to kind of like shape how they're interacting and relating to each other at this point.
I think it's also quite good as well because, in these games, obviously these games are taken very, very seriously in the light of what's happening in the moment, obviously with these zombies and like your POWs and things like that. But it's also nice to see the writers throw in like quirky one-liners that are funny,
And they're very like nostalgic too in the remakes, right? They're nostalgic of the campiness and the silliness that was really intentional in the first games. Like, there's no watching those and going, this is totally serious. Like, it's funny. It's funny. It's silly. And I love that in approaching the grounded, gritty, very cinematic version of these games, which I think the remakes definitely do for, 7, 8, 4, like all within that. You're right. There's just so much like little hidden nuggets of humor and silly, and it just makes it very delightful, I think. Favorite line? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is not actually one of the fan favorites. You know, all the fan favorites are everything she hollers at Nemesis. But there's this little subtle line that was just recorded in the booth that gets chucked out in the sewer system. And I love it. And in the game, I think it's just so, it just shows such a delightful, like, version of where her head's at. And it's the, I'm definitely burning these clothes. And I love that. I love that she's like, oh, gross. I'm burning these clothes. And I just think it's such a fun little window into other things in her head as she trucks forward. So that's a really silly one, and I know it's not like you know, the classic stars or any of those, and I love those as well. But I loved that little line. And then a scene. I really love the scene where Nikolai comes and is stepping on her fingers while she's hanging. It was both technically a challenge to shoot. There was a lot of mocap magic happening for sure. And I just love a good face-off with Neil. Like, he's so fun to face off with. Yeah. Just give all the eyes and intensity too. Like, I think that one's fun. And when he shoots the vaccine, I think it's really heartbreaking, and I really felt that. And I think it comes through in the game too, just like how devastating it is, because it's a very fast moment. So trying to communicate like how much that breaks her heart in one line very quickly before we immediately move on. And I just feel like that moment still really played of just like her devastation over the destruction of that vaccine.
Damn you, Neil. All right.
Naughty boy.
So the last question of the set of questions is, do you play horror games yourself, or do you find them too scary to touch?
I've been playing all of them, and I do find them too scary to touch. So yes to both. They're too scary to touch, and you can watch my playthroughs. I've played through a lot of Resident Evil and brought on guests and some of the other actors to talk about their work, and it's all on YouTube now. So I've streamed a bunch of horror games now, and then I've branched out because everyone's like, you have to play more, and I'm like, but it's so scary. I'm a total baby, but I do manage it, and here we are.
I think so the first time when I played RE3, I was living with my dad at the time, and my dad was like, are you like not frightened of these? I was like, well, a little tiny bit. And then I think as I've sort of grown a lot older now, I'll be 40 next year, and I've sort of grown to love them a lot more, because my channel is all about horror and survival horror. And I've played so many different types of horrors. There is one horror that I don't touch as much because it just makes me jump, which is The Mortuary Assistant. Have you ever played that one?
No, I haven't. I've had a lot of people really want me to play Silent Hill, which I think I probably could do, having, but it's scary. And then I've had a lot of people tell me like, oh, Alien Isolation, you would really struggle with it. And I was like, that seems right. Maybe I just don't then. Maybe I just don't.
That game, I've literally just covered chapters 1 to 10, because I do no commentary walkthroughs and stuff like that. And the first time I ever played it, I spent a lot of time hiding. And now
I'm notorious for being really bad at stealth mode. I'm like, oh, you want me to stealth about this? How about not? How about we go in guns blazing instead, because it makes me feel safer.
Sometimes that's the only way you have to fight through these horror games, is just to do that, because I'm not very stealthy either. So thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us on the channel today. It was wonderful to chat with you all things Jill and Resident Evil. And do you have anything coming up that you'd like to notify the fans or community about?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy and pleasure. And I have things coming up, none of which I am able to speak about because of the nature of this industry. But when anything that I am working on that's new or hasn't been announced yet does get announced, I'm sure I will post about it or share about it on my social media. So you can give me a follow at Nikki Lee Tompkins on Instagram is where I'm most. But you can also find me on Twitch, Nicole Tompkins, and YouTube and X and, all the places.
Fantastic stuff. That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors and your projects.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.